Good morning, everyone. This is Dan O'Sullivan with your Bucks Island area fishing report for Saturday, September 28th. Hey, there's that big storm coming through. The hurricane's going to come through, going to drop a lot of water. Folks, let's be careful out there. There's going to be debris, there's going to be floating logs, maybe even docks. Be careful in your navigating, but you should be able to catch a few fish. And we're going to talk to the guys. We're going to talk to Tom, Lee, and Gentry, and then Tracy Robinson filling in to help us put a few fish in the boat. But we'll be right back with what the guys have to say. Hey, we got Tom Mott going to talk a little bit of Guntersville fishing. Tom, first of all, I hope everybody's safe with this hurricane that's coming through. We know it's going to drop water and a lot of it. How's the fishing been before, and what do you expect afterwards?
Well, it's really picking up, Dano. Last weekend was a lot better. There was a big tournament, big high school tournament, so I got to get out there and run around a little bit and watch those guys. But they had a real good day. A lot of fish were caught. Not really a lot of big fish, but a lot of fish. Good, solid, healthy fish. So I'm telling you, that frog bite's really starting to show itself. The flipping bite's probably the most consistent as far as better fish go. But the chatterbait, I'm catching a lot of fish. I like to stay out a little bit. I've been catching fish in probably that 8-10 foot of water and doing real well. I mean, it wasn't a huge day, but I think we had 17, 18 pounds last weekend, and it was just they were just good solid fish. But most of them either came on a chatterbait, a spinnerbait. We had a few that we caught on plastic, soft plastics. But the flipping bite really produced the largest fish for sure. With all the wind, I'm kind of wondering what's going to happen with the wind and a lot of rain. Some of the mats are starting to not really get smaller, but appear smaller anyway, kind of sink under the water. So I'm kind of wondering what's going to happen. We had some water level drop. The water temperature's been up and down. We were in mid 70s. We were back up into the low 80s this past week. So it's really just, it's really volatile right now, but the fish are trying to do their thing the best they can for sure.
So what you're telling me is it's up and down, and the fish are kind of a little bipolar right now. But if you keep going, you catch a few. Okay, let's talk a little bit about. Are you seeing crappie boats out there? Striper, are they starting to go? What are you seeing?
The stripe, the top water activity. We've been seeing a lot of schooling stuff, schooling happening, but the stripe have been kind of sporadic a little bit. I don't know if that's a weather related thing or exactly what. The causeways are starting to fill up. The crazy thing about the crappie right now is they do like those bridge pilings, but just because they're in 20 foot of water doesn't mean that they're going to be down at 20 foot of water. A lot of these fish are suspending, just 4 or 5 feet under the surface, and they're just picking off the bait fish as they come through. So that's really probably the best way to catch your crappie right now is be around those bridges, causeways, and the poles, the pylons, that kind of deal. But I think it's going to happen a little earlier this year where we're going to start seeing them disperse into the grass, start getting a little shallow, and that's a fun time for sure.
Well, brother, we appreciate everything. You have a great week. Be safe with Helena coming through, and we will talk to you soon. Hey, we got our good friend Tracy Robinson going to talk a little bit of Logan Martin and Lay Lake fishing. Tracy, let's start at Logan Martin. What are you hearing?
Logan Martin, actually, been down there a time or two in the past week and a half. Actually caught some really good fish down there. Every time I talk about Logan, the seawall bite just seems like almost a year-round deal. So you can get on those seawalls in the morning and get bit, and it's a lot of fun. I had a partner with me. We were throwing top water, and we getting they was blowing the top water out of the water. For whatever reason, it was even into the morning. It was bright sunshine. We were still throwing the popping and the Sammy type baits and catching a lot of fish on the seawalls. But they were only about a pound, pound and a half. But it was tons of fun. But there was just a ton of them up there. I headed up the lake a little bit on Tuesday of last week and caught some pretty good ones up the lake in some trees. I was throwing a crankbait and my partner was throwing a spinner bait, but both baits we were getting bit on really well though in the trees up the lake. When I say up the lake, lock 4 and above. Wasn't a lot of current. A couple of afternoons they ran some current, but when there was no current up there and we were able to fish those trees, we caught some pretty good fish. And it was a mixture of largemouth and spotted bass. So that was happening pretty good. As far as boats on the lake, I saw a ton of boats on the lake, crappie boats. I'm sure I didn't get any crappie reports, but I saw people catfishing out there, hanging out there deep, and I saw some crappie boats on the lower end one day. But I didn't really get a crappie report. But I know there's a lot of people out there fishing for them right now. So that's what I've seen at Logan in the past week.
All right, and I know you're probably wanting to be a little bit tight-lipped because you got the ABT championship coming up at Lake. Don't want to give anybody too much information, I guess, but what's going on at Lake?
Well, I don't mind sharing a little bit. And you know, we've got the ABT championship coming up, and I'm seeing a lot of those guys down there practicing too. And I'm looking out of the corner of my eye, just like they are. But you know, it's no secret down there. There's kind of two things that are going to happen, really, maybe three at lay. But I would ideally like to get on some of those offshore fish, those schooling type fish, and chase them with a forward facing sonar, whether that's with a Demiki or a drop shot or a spoon. But I keep cruising around looking for those type bait balls on that lower end or mid to lower. I see a few, but I'm not seeing a lot of activity as far as fish chasing those, feeding on those, eating on those. But that is coming. Couple of cool nights, I think that bite's really going to pick up, but I'm just not seeing that happen right now. So, based on what I did at Logan, I headed up the lake on Monday of this week, and I got bit pretty good up the lake, and it turns into more of a river, you know, up the lake, and you can fish the trees, the laydowns, the rocks, and whatnot. But again, not much current with the lack of rain. That's all fixing to change probably tonight, but I can get bit up the lake right now, fishing some of that river type run stuff, whether it be crankbait or I slowed down a few times, threw a jig and some plastics in there and got bit as well. But there's definitely fish to be caught on a couple of different ways at lay. And lay being full of grass, that I didn't do that any in the past week just because that's what I do. And I was trying to find other options, but that bite is almost always some way to catch them in that vegetation on lay.
Tracy, as always, brother, we appreciate everything. Thanks for the time. We'll talk to you again soon, my friend. Hey, we got Lee Pitts going to talk a little bit of Weiss Lake and Neely Henry. Lee, let's start with the crappie at Weiss Lake. I know that they've been kind of showing up a little bit. Are they still?
Yeah, we're starting to see more fish coming in. This last week, early in the week, our water temperature was still pretty high. Now we're having a little bit of wind, got some water coming, so it's dropping, and that's helping these crappie. They're really starting to get around the brush, whatever kind of wood cover you can find, not only man-made, we got a lot of canes up and down the river that we put out, but also the old standing timbers. They're holding tight to that wood, and a majority of them, they're coming up and suspending. So don't just look at trying to fish the bottom. Some of these fish are coming up in these treetops and sitting on the tops of them. So we're starting to see more crappie come up right now.
I'm assuming that baby shad's probably a pretty good little bait for that, isn't it?
Baby shad's always a good bait anytime.
All right, what about the bass at Weiss? What are you seeing out of that?
We're catching fish, catching a lot of fish, but just not catching the big ones right now. I think with the water cooling down and more with this rain that we've got, bringing some fresh water in is going to help that. But we're catching a lot of small fish. Spinnerbait's been good. The topwater bite is picking up, a small buzz bait, a little spook, something like that. A pawpaw has been pretty good, but it's coming. Everything's starting to turn a little bit, with this weather. I think it's kind of hindered some of the fishermen from getting out the main part of the week, but it's getting better. We need a little bit more water in here, a little more flow. And like I said, things are looking up on Weiss Lake.
All right, let's go to Neely Henry. What's going on there?
It's Weiss and Neely fish a lot alike, but right now, like I said, I think, a lot of people really, really enjoy that fall grass bite. The water's been a little low down there, so that's pulled some of those fish out, especially your good fish they pulled out, and they're looking for that wood cover. Any kind of stump, brush pile, some kind of lay down that you've got that the tips of it come on out in that little bit of deeper water, that's something to look at. A dock bite too, if you got some high sun coming out, it's been real good. I like to look for those docks that's got some brush under it. That way you got kind of the best of both worlds. You got shade and cover. So that right there. jig bites picked up a little bit. Something that we were just pitching those plastics and letting them sit. Your smaller jigs, black and blue's been good, and still throwing some kind of plastic around those docks.
And crappie bites starting to turn on those docks, especially docks with some brush on them too, right?
Exactly. They're getting there, and it's that time of year that we've been sweating and trying to dodge that heat. So now it's time to get out there on the water and get to putting some in the freezer.
Sounds good, my friend. Hey, we will talk to you again next week. Have a great week. Be safe. Hey, we're joined by Gentry Gordy, getting ready for Hurricane Helena. Hey, Gentry, what's going on Martin and Jordan, and how should we prepare for afterwards?
Well, Dano, looking at the way the storm's coming, I think Martin may get a little more than Jordan, just being a little bit further west. But hopefully, it'll start moving some water. Martin's dropping. We'll start there. We may get enough rain to get like Sandy in the back of Blue Creek, places like that. Kalijah may get a stain to it. But with the water dropping, and all this rain, it may stabilize for a few days. If it does that, I'm going to the bank with a buzz bait. That's what I like doing. If you run up on a trash pile or something, flip the jig or a shaky head in it. Other thing is, if the wind and all just blows some leaves and pine straw down, don't ever forget about that ribbit frog. It'll come right through that stuff.
Yeah, it will. Going to be a little tougher to fish for crappie right now with the light baits and the heavy winds and the current moving, correct?
Yeah. Well, Martin, you stand a chance of getting out of it somewhere. Just a matter of,
Okay.
Usually if you get out of the wind at Martin this time of year, though, the bait's not there. You need that wind to blow it in there. But if it's too much, it's going to be hard to hold a crappie jig.
Yeah, I hear you there. All right, let's talk Jordan Lake. That one's going to get dirty, right?
Yeah, Jordan's. Yeah, I'm sure there's going to be enough rain there where it's going to dirty it up. If it, after a few days of it being dirty, you're going to definitely have some current. So, I'm running up the river. Give it, 2 or 3 days after it stains up, then fish get more adapted to it. Your canal into the new lake's going to be rolling, anywhere up the river. And if that's not your style, go to the bank, do the same, throw a ribbit frog over some of that grass and buzz baits and jigs.
Is the offshore bite going to be blown out for now? Is that what we need to consider?
Yeah, I think so. I wouldn't put up my big chartreuse crankbait just in case.
Gotcha. Any other funny thing going on? Are you seeing any of the brim fishermen out there? Any crappie fishermen out there at all?
Yes. I don't think it's changed. I think a lot of those crappie are still on some of those deeper trash piles. I told you last time I thought they were bass, but I think they're there. They're going to probably, as it cools off and that bait gets a little shallower, they're going to move with it.
I got you.
Yeah, but it's going to be funny, with this storm blowing in.
Yep. Gentry, as always, brother, we appreciate everything. Be safe, and we're pretty sure you're on call and going to have to take care of some other people. Thanks for what you do, and we'll talk to you soon. Well, that'll wrap up our Bucks Island Area Fishing Report for Saturday, September 28th. Thanks to the guys for everything they do. Again, folks, please be careful out there. We are here to help you if there's anything that goes on that you need for your boating and fishing needs. Come see us at Bucks Island. We look forward to seeing you. You are the best part of Bucks Island, and we thank you.